And also 4A is titled Taking Control of Your Finances. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to give you is some steps to help you control your finances. All right, y'all. So, first thing you want to do when you're controlling your finances, know your bank balance. Okay, so you always want to keep up with that. Next, know what you spend. Okay, keep up with everything you're spending. If you're using debit cards a lot, keep up with what you're spending on them cards, okay? Don't buy on impulse. All right, so always think about any purchases and if they make sense, okay? And then, the main thing, and we'll actually do a project in this starting next week. But the main thing, make a budget. Don't overspend. Because you want to avoid having a negative monthly cash flow. And the way you would get a negative monthly cash flow is that you're spending more money than bringing in. Okay, so that creates a negative monthly cash flow when you spend more money than you bring in. So you gotta make sure that your income is always higher than what you're spending, okay? So we're going to look at what we call a four-step budget making process. All right, y'all. Step one of the four-step budget making process: determine your monthly average income. Okay, so you're looking at paychecks. If you get SSI, since y'all are students, are you dividing that tuition up to help you out monthly and things like that? Okay. So, what kind of income do you have? Step two, determine your average monthly expenses. Hey, what are you spending that money on? Rent, house payments, bills, food, gasoline, car payments, any expenses you have during that month, okay? Step three on your budget making process would be determine your net monthly cash flow. So determine your net monthly cash flow. And the way we're doing that, by subtracting total expenses from your total income. So I add up all my income and then I add up all my expenses and subtract that from the total income. I'm hoping that's a positive number. That means I have more money than I'm spending for the month. But y'all, if you get a negative cash flow, that means you are spending a lot more money than you're bringing in. And y'all, that'd be step four. Make adjustments as needed. Okay. So if you got a gym membership, is that something that you need to keep in order to get a positive monthly cash flow? Okay. Are you able to save money like you want to? So all them things we got to factor into when we're looking at making that budget. Okay. All right, y'all. Then I'm going to give you a few definitions on insurance cost. Because a lot of us have to get health insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, things like that. So before we look at these exercises, I'm going to give you a few definitions on insurance cost. So usually you'll have what we call a premium. And y'all, premium is the amount you pay to purchase the policy. All right, so most of the time it could be monthly on health insurance. Car insurance can vary. You can pay that monthly. You can pay that every 6 months, so forth. Okay. All right. Next, we'll look at deductible. So the deductible is the amount you are responsible for before the insurance company will pay anything. So that's the amount you are responsible for before the insurance company um will pay anything. So I've seen some insurances, if you want a lower deductible, then you're paying a higher premium and vice versa. Okay, if you get a higher deductible, then you can get away with sometimes paying a smaller monthly premium. So this depends on the policy and how you're looking at them. Now, a co-payment. This usually applies to health insurance. And it's the amount you pay each time you use a particular service that is covered by the insurance policy. So if you just do a doctor visit, they're going to ask you usually for this co-payment before you leave. Okay, because that's the money you're going to pay each time before they bill it to your insurance company. Okay. All right, y'all. So knowing these definitions, we're going to get into doing some of these 4A exercises so that I can show y'all some of these examples and how this is going to apply to them. Okay. So y'all, I'm going to pull up our math lab here. Okay, y'all. So number one, what does a negative monthly cash flow mean? So remember what we said on that. So what do y'all got? B. So let's see what B is saying. It means you're spending more money than you're taking in. When you subtract your total expenses from your total income, the difference is positive. Well, y'all, they're asking for a negative monthly cash flow. All right, so let's see what y'all are saying. E. E says it means you're taking in more money than you're spending. When you subtract the total expenses from your total income, the difference is positive. So, y'all, to get E, you would have to have a positive monthly cash flow. So, think about what I said a while ago. The way you would get a negative cash flow is if your expenses that you're spending on bills and payments on everything, if that is greater than the money you're bringing in. Okay. So we're looking for one that says the difference is negative. So y'all, actually, it should be. Oh, y'all said E. Okay, okay. I was looking at F for y'all. Okay, my bad. So y'all are good. It was E. I was seeing F as E on my screen, but no, y'all are perfect. Okay, when you subtract it from your total income, then the answer would be negative, which would put you in that negative cash flow. So Ashley, you and Josh, I'm sorry, I was reading my screen wrong, so good job. So that when you hit final check, fantastic. I'm going to bring up a chart, and what it wants us to do For the average person, what is the single biggest category of expense? So we're going to look at this chart and see what y'all think. So it's got it broke down to food, and they're doing it by age groups. Red is under 35. Blue is for your 35 to 64. The sort of beigey color is 65 and older. But we're not worried about what age groups. We just want to know between food, housing, clothing, transportation, health care, entertainment, donations to charity, and personal insurance and pensions, of all those categories, what is the biggest category of expenses? And y'all, if you read the chart down here, it's got it by percentage. So y'all look at that. That housing is going over 30%. No matter what age group it is, looks like housing is our biggest expense. So we want to find one over here that says housing. So we would go with, what do y'all got? Housing. So that'd be what, D? Guys, you're just reading that chart and seeing which one had the most. So Lena, looks like good job. So y'all, let's see if this makes sense. Brandon discovered that his daily routine of buying a slice of pizza and a soda at lunch was costing him more than $20,000 a year. So this first one, A, it makes sense because this would mean that a slice of pizza and soda cost him about $5 a day. Well, y'all, let's see, $5 a day times 365. I don't think we're getting 20,000 out of that. So then I see you shaking your head. Good job. B, it does not make sense because this would mean that it would cost him five a day. C, it does not make sense because that means the pizza and soda cost him 55 a day. So y'all, let's see. Let's go to the calculator. So 55 times 365. Well, that's putting you right at that 20,000 there. So I think Josh said C, so that looks good to me. Right, so I don't think he's actually spending 20,000 a year on that pizza and that Coke every day, okay? So good job, Josh. Let's check your answer. And there you go. All right, y'all, four is about to, we're going to compare stuff. And let me show y'all how to do this one. So they want us to complete the sentence. On an annual basis, the first set of expenses is blank percent of the second set of expenses. So y'all, let me write this one down. It was 19 a week on cigarettes, and then 37 a month on dry cleaning. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do this one because they're looking at what percent is the first one compared to the second. Is it more or is it less? So since it's weekly on the cigarettes, I'm going to take this $19 and times that by 52 weeks in the year, because we want to look at a yearly cost. So y'all, let's figure that one out. 19 times 52. One of y'all got a calculator? So we get 988. Good job. All right, now we need to do monthly dry cleaning. So this 37 is going to get multiplied by 12 because we got 12 months in the year. So that equals $444. All right, so what you do now, we know what they are yearly. So now you take this 988, you're going to divide by the 444. And y'all, that's going to give us a decimal answer probably. So let's see, 988, divide that by 444. So what are you getting, 2.225? But y'all, here's the thing. They want percentages. This is decimal. So what we got to do, convert from decimal to percent. Now to move this from decimal to percent, we move the decimal right 2 places. Okay, so to go from decimal to percent, we're going to move that decimal right 2 places. So that's going to give me 222.5%. But y'all, they're rounding this to the nearest ones. So would I keep that a 2 or would I make that a 3? And the number after that is a 5. So y'all, that looks like it'd be what? 223%. Good job. Okay, so when you get a decimal, you turn that decimal point right twice to get that into percent. All right, y'all, so let's go to MATLAB and see how they're saying round to the nearest percent. So they don't want any numbers after the decimal when they say that, okay? All right, so we said what, 223? And then check your answer. So when I look at something like that, that tells me they're spending over 200% more on their cigarettes than they do on their dry cleaning. Are y'all letting one in real quick? All right, so this one. Find the monthly interest payment in the situation described below. Assume that the monthly interest rate is 1/12 of the annual interest rate. So let's write this one down. We have an average balance of 1,020 on a credit card. Has a 15% annual interest rate. Oh, this will show you how they figure out your monthly interest on your credit card payments. Okay. So they want to know what the monthly interest payment is. So that means this is how much of your actual bill you're paying for interest. So the trick is to pay higher than your interest on a monthly if you ever want to pay these cards off, okay? So let me show you how we would figure that out. So y'all, first of all, you're starting out with 15% annual. They want monthly. So the first thing you're going to do, we got to take that 15 and divide that by 12. All right, it's 15% per year. So we divide that by 12 to see what the monthly interest payment is. All right, so y'all got that punched in for me? So 1.25. So y'all on this credit card, we're paying 1.25% per year. Now, in order to figure out how much of this um, credit card is going to interest, we need to convert this out of percent and change this to decimal. So we're going to convert from percent decimal. Okay, y'all? So it's basically the opposite of converting from decimal to percent. To go from percent to decimal, you move the decimal left 2 places. So 1.25% in decimal form, I would move that decimal left twice. Y'all, that means we got to add a 0 there so that we get 0, 1, 2, 5. All right, so when you want to multiply by that balance, we got to convert it into decimal form. All right, y'all, so now the monthly interest payment will be $1,020 times our 0.0125. All right, y'all, so one of y'all multiply that for me. Actually, I think you're one decimal off. I'm coming up with 12.75. Let me see what my okay, yeah, 12.75. So y'all, usually a credit card will charge you a minimum payment of the interest. So on this credit card, if I don't pay more than $12.75 a month on that 1,020 balance, I'll never pay it off. Okay, you always want to pay more than that minimum payment, okay? All right, y'all, let me see how they wanted this answer. Let's see if they wanted us to round it a certain spot. And y'all, that looks like it'll take both decimals since it's money. So we would put in our 12.75. So the trick on that one was converting that percent. Once we figured out that monthly percent, converting that to a decimal before we multiply, okay? All right, let's see what they want. Find the average monthly expense that would you would use in budgeting for the given. Okay, so, and they're telling you annually means once a year, semi-annual means twice a year. So Sarah pays $5,000 for tuition for each semester. And then it says an additional $410 for books each semester. All righty, so they just want to know what this would be monthly, okay? All righty. So if you're paying $5,000 a semester, you're usually going to go 2 semesters. So 5,000 times 2 covers her tuition. And then it says another 410 for books each semester. So that's going to be 410 times your 2 semesters. So y'all, let's multiply them out, see what we get. Then we'll figure out our monthly prices, okay? So y'all, 5,000 times 2 gave us 10,000. So that'd be your tuition a year. And then let me see, 410 times 2 would give us the books for the year. So that'd be 820. All righty, so what we want to do is add them two together. So y'all, we're adding them together. That's going to give me what? 10,820. This is per year. So we want y'all to divide that by 12 to get my monthly. So y'all take your 10,820, divide that by 12 and see what we get. All right, y'all, I'm going to have to see how they want this one. But I'm coming up with something like, oh, then divide that by 12. Because they want monthly and there's 12 months in a year. So 901.66. And I actually ended up with a lot of sixes on this. So it was going way out. So y'all, let's see how they want this answer before we figure out how to round it off. So round to the nearest dollar. So they don't want any decimal places, okay? So are you going to keep that 901 or are you going to make that 902? Oh, Lena, you done jumped up 902, perfect. So rounding to the nearest dollar, y'all, there's nothing after that decimal, okay? So let's see. Let's see if y'all got there. And there you go. Okay. So you got to take that info they're giving you and then figure out how they're wanting it answered, okay? All right, y'all. So this is more help on the budget. Let me move this so I can see my chart here. So they want the net monthly cash flow. So let's see. Here's our income. So let me write down our income. We get 600 a month for a job. All right. We get 400 a month for college help. And then on your scholarship, you get $6,600 a year. All right, let me write these expenses. Rent, $550 a month. Groceries, $40 a week. Tuition and fees is $2,400 twice a year. And then incidentals are $60 a week. Okay, so we're going to take that information they're giving us for the income and expenses, and we're going to see if we get a net monthly cash flow. And it actually says round to the nearest dollar. So hopefully they're in a positive cash flow, which means they got more money than they're spending. If it's negative, then we get a negative cash flow. All right, so we're doing this monthly. So my monthly income, $600 a month, $400 a month. But y'all, that 6,600 is for a year. So what I need y'all to do is take that 6,600, divide that by 12, and get me a monthly charge on that. So that's 550. All right, y'all. So let's add these three together for me and let's get our monthly income. So that'd be your 600 plus your 400 plus your 550. So what do we got? 1,550, okay. All right, so now let's figure out these expenses. We got 550 a month. All right, y'all, that's 40 a week. So we're looking at a month. So we need to take that 40 and multiply by 4. All right, so 160 on that. All right, y'all. 2,400 twice a year. So basically, we're paying this every 6 months. So take that 2,400 and divide that by 6 and see what we get. So 400, all righty. Now you could have did it for the whole year and then divided by 12, but you'd got the same answer. All right, y'all, 60 a week. There's 4 weeks in a month. So I need y'all to take that 60 and multiply by 4. So Trinity, what's that, 240? All right, y'all, so what we need to add up is 550 plus 160 plus 400 plus our 240. So Jada, what y'all got there? Trinity 1350, good job. All right, so I got my total income, my total expenses. So now remember, net cash flow is equal to our income minus our expenses. So that's going to be the 1,550 minus our 1,350. All right, y'all. So subtract that and let's see if we're positive or negative. Trinity minus that. Because we're subtracting that one. So 200. And y'all, that was not negative, that was positive. So this one actually had a positive monthly cash flow. Okay, so let's go put that in. And round to the nearest dollar, y'all done did that. So that'd be the 200. Y'all didn't have any decimals on that one. And then check your answer. So y'all are not bad. You just got to sort of play with what the information they're giving us. All right, y'all. So let's see what this one's saying. This is going to be that chart again. So determine whether the spinning pattern given below is equal to, above, or below the national average. So this one says a single 30-year-old woman. So what's this, number 8? So a 30-year-old woman, monthly salary of 3,000, spends 800 a month on rent. All right, so what we got to figure out on this one is what percentage of 3,000 is 800? Once we get their percent, we'll go look on that chart, okay? So y'all, let's go play with this, get her percent real quick. So to figure out the amount spent on rent, we take this 800 and we're going to divide that by 3,000. All right, y'all, so take that 800 and divide by 3,000 for me. And y'all should get a decimal on that. Okay, so that's what I'm getting, 0.2666. A lot of sixes and a 7. All righty. Now, that's decimal form. I'm looking for the percent. So remember, we got to change this to percent. And the way we're going to change that to percent is move that decimal right 2 spots. So I get 26.6667. Y'all, they're going to want us to round it to the nearest percent. So am I going to keep that 26% or will I make that a 27? All right, y'all got 27. Good job. So this 30-year-old lady basically spends 27% of her income on rent. Now let's go look at this chart. So now you click on the chart so that you know hers. All right, y'all. So let's find her rent. Rent is housing here. Now notice right here, how old was she? 30 years old. So she's going to be the pinkish looking color since she's under 35. I would use blue for 35 to 64, and then that beige for 65 and older. So we're looking for the pink on the housing. So it says on average, someone under 35 would spend 34%. Okay. So let's look at their answers. So she spent 27. They said it should be 34. So y'all, A, B, or C? So it looked like our national average was 34. Y'all said 27. So y'all, that is definitely below the national average. So you put A for that one. If you'd have got 34 on her, then it would have equaled. Anything higher, I would have went with B on that, okay? All right, y'all, so let's see. All right, number 9. I think it's the same type. All right, y'all, so this is the same. It's a 30-year-old again. 3,400 salary. And this one spends 1,400 on rent. So we're going to go figure out what her percentage is, and then we'll come back and look at the chart. So 1,400 on rent, take that 1,400, divide by her total income of 3,400. And y'all, let's do that and get us another decimal. So 1,400, divide that by 3,400. So we should get a decimal again. So 0.41176. Hopefully that's enough digits. All right, let's turn that into a percentage. Move this decimal right twice. So that's going to give me 41.176%. So y'all, are you going to keep that 41% or are you going to turn that to 42%? And remember, we're looking at this, all right, what are y'all saying? 41, 41, 41. Okay, I'm with y'all. 41%. So this one stayed the same since that was a 1 after it, okay? All right, so we know she's spending 41%. Let's look at the chart for a 30-year-old. So click the chart. All right, so it's 30-year-old, so it's going to be the pink again. And we're looking at the rent, so that'll be the housing. So y'all, the average is still 34 on this one. 34 is the average. They spent 41. So A, B, or C? Y'all are saying C, definitely above, okay? So we had one lower, one higher on that one. All right, y'all, let's see here. We got 65, over 65 on this one. Their income is 3,900. They're spending 720 on health care. All right, so let's go figure out their percent and then see whether they're above average or below, okay? And y'all, you're going to do this the same way. Take what they're spending, 720, divide that by their total income, 3,900. All right, anyone got that one for me? 720 divided by 3,900. All right, so y'all getting 0.1846. All righty, we're going to turn that into a percent, member, by moving that decimal right twice. So I get 18.46%. Are y'all going to keep that 18 or will that go to 19? So, Lena, that was pretty quick. That's going to stay 18%. So, this couple is spending 18% on health care. So, let's go figure that out. So, we're going to look at the chart. Now, remember, they're over 65. So, over 65 is I guess that's sort of beigey pink. I don't know. All right, where's healthcare? Healthcare's so you got food, housing, clothing, transportation. Healthcare is what we're looking at. 18%. The national average for someone 65 and older is 12%. So 18 is more than 12. So which one am I looking at? Looks like B. And because the couple spends 18%, which is above the national average. So y'all got B2, good job. Oh, y'all, what'd we do? Oh, let me look at this figure again. So we had 720 divided by 39. All right, y'all, let me go back to my math. All right, so we had 720. We divided that by 3,900. Yeah, I think they want that 0.5 on that, and let me go look. Oh, round it to the nearest tenth. Okay, y'all. So that 4.6, we round that to a 5. All right, y'all knew we had the math right. We just didn't round it off to what they wanted. See up here, where it says select a correct choice. Right under it, it says round to the nearest tenth. So now we should be good. All right, y'all making me whoo. Okay, so got to pay attention to what they want them rounded to. Okay, so if you miss it, go back and always look and see how they wanted those things rounded. Okay. Oh, so we want to know whether it'd be better to buy a new car or lease a car. So to buy a new car is 24,000, or lease the car on a 3-year period. Okay, so on a lease, you can make a down payment of $1,000, and you have monthly payments of 150. At the end of the 3 years, the leased car has a residual value of 12,000. So that means at the end of the 3 years, if you wanted to buy that car, it would cost you that 12,000. Okay. All right. So we want to see if it's less to buy the car outright or lease it then buy it. All righty. So if we're buying, we're going to take our, what is it, 24,000. We're going to subtract the residual value of the car after the 3 years, which is $12,000. And y'all get that amount. All righty, so 24,000 minus 12,000 gives us $12,000. Now, let's figure out on the leasing. We take our 1,000 down payment. Y'all, we're paying $150 a month for 3 years. So what we need to do is figure out how much is $150 for 36 months. All right, y'all, so figure that one out for me, y'all, right here. It is $150 times 36 months is $5,400. So that's going into the cost. Therefore, add them together and see what I get. 6,400. So y'all, in this case, it would seem like leasing would be your cheaper option. So I think let's go see what they're saying. All right, so the cost for buying the car and selling it after the 3 years, what do we get on that? 12,000. All right, y'all, let me find my answer blank. All right, the cost for leasing the car, I forgot what we came up with. Josh, you was at 6,400. So they just want to know, is it least expensive to buy or lease? So lease, we would check lease and then final check that answer. All right, y'all, let me get my page ready for this one. All righty. Many insurance company policies carry a deductible that states how much of a claim a person must pay out of pocket before the insurance company pays the remaining expenses. So for example, if you file a claim for $350 on a policy with a $200 deductible, he or she pays $200 and insurance pays $150. So in the following cases, they want us to determine how much a person would pay with and without an insurance policy. So y'all, the first one says a person has a car insurance policy with a $700 deductible per claim. During a 2-year period, the person files claims for 560, so 560 and 925. Alrighty. The annual premium for the policy is 560. Alrighty. So we're looking at a period of 2 years on this, okay? So let's look at with the insurance. And then we'll look at without the insurance, okay? All righty. So what is the cost of this insurance for 2 years? We're looking at 2 years, okay? All righty. You had two wrecks. Well, y'all, your deductible is higher than the 560, so you're going to pay that 560 no matter what. So if your deductible is higher than your wreck, then you're paying the whole amount. Now on the second wreck, 925, you're paying 700 of that with your deductible. Now, you're paying 560 in premiums a year for 2 years. So that's going to be 560 and then 560. All right, y'all. So add those up for me and let's see what we get with insurance, what we're paying. So y'all add all these up. I think we're getting 2,380. So your premiums, 560 a year for 2 years. On the first wreck, you had to pay the whole 560 because it was less than your deductible. On the second wreck, you paid 700 of the 925. Okay. All right, let's look at without insurance. Well, y'all, without insurance, you're not paying these monthly premiums for 2 years, but you are paying the full amount for your two wrecks. So this wreck costs you 560, plus the second wreck costs you 925. So we'll add them together. That's how much you would pay without insurance. So what do y'all got? 1485? Sounds good. All right, so let's go see how they want us to answer this. All right, with the insurance policy, we said they would pay 2380. Without the policy, they would pay 1485. All right, y'all. So I think you check that, and then we got to check that answer. All right, y'all. This is the same question, but different numbers. So this one has a 300 deductible. All right. During 2 years, they have a 560 and 1325. So they had these two claims. The annual premium is 800. All right, so we'll do the same thing we just did for A with this B here. So with the insurance, I got a 300 deductible. So the deductible is less than both the claims. So I'll pay 300 each time. Okay, so I've only got to pay the deductible for this wreck and a deductible for that wreck of 300. My annual premium's 800, so that'll be 800 for each year. So y'all, let's add them up and we'll get the amount with insurance. So 2,200. Right then without. And y'all, looks like without insurance, I'm paying the full prices of both wrecks. So we got our 560 plus our 1325. Add them up and that'll give us the price without insurance. So that was 1885. All right, y'all, so let's go plug this in. All right, so with the policy, y'all said 2200. Without, we said 1885. All right, so you push them in and check your answer. All right, y'all, so let's get C down here. Um, this has a $1,400 deductible. 2 year period, you got a 200 and a 1700. And your annual premium is 360. So that's per year. And this was 2 years of accidents, okay? So let's play with this one. All right, so let's do with insurance. Well, y'all look here, your deductible is 1400. So you're paying this whole 200 on that one. On the 1700 wreck, you're paying 1400 plus your 360 for each year. All right, y'all. So add them up. That'll give me the price with the insurance. So that's 2320. All right, without insurance. Well, y'all, without insurance, I'm paying the whole price of both wrecks. So 200 for that first wreck, 1700 for the second wreck. All right, what are we getting on that one? 1900. Y'all, this almost make you not want to get insurance doing this exercise, right? All right, with the insurance, 2320. Without, 1900. So explain why lower insurance premiums go with higher deductibles. If the premium is low, the insurance company will make a higher profit. The insurance company does not want to make a profit. Low premiums attract more customers. The insurance company aims to make a profit, so they have to offset a low premium with a high deductible, or high deductibles attract more customers. So what do y'all think? So let's see. Y'all gonna go with C because we know they want to make a profit on that, right? All right, let's see if y'all are right. There you go. All right, y'all. So let me see what we got here on this. I think this is our last one. So consider a relatively simple health insurance plan with the following provisions. Office visits require a copayment of $30. So office visit, $30. Emergency room visits. So the ER is a 270 copayment. Surgery is a 2,000 deductible. So the first 2,000 paid out of pocket is what they're meaning. The monthly premium is $350. So during a 1 year period, somebody insured by this health insurance has the expenses shown to the right. All right, y'all. So we got to figure out how much we're spending per each of these. So we got an office visit. So we got an office, an ER, an office visit, surgery, an office visit, and then an ER. All righty. Now remember, we also got that $350 a month for insurance, okay? And they want to know the person's healthcare expenses for the whole year. All righty, so let's go play with this one. All right, y'all. So here's what they had. They had an office visit. We said that was $30. ER was $270. Another office visit for $30. Surgery cost them $2,000. Another office visit for $30. And then an ER for $270. So I just went by what the plan was paying on those right here. So we're going to add this up for the year, but then we also got to figure out these premiums for the year, okay? So y'all, what was 350 by 12 give me for a yearly premium amount? So 4,200 a year just on the premiums, y'all. So we got that 4,200 for the year. And y'all, we're going to add all these amounts to it. So 30, 270, 30, 2,000, 30, and 270. All right, y'all. So add all these together and see what I get. Also, this amount equaled 2,600, Antonique. So take that 2,600, add to that 4,200. All right, y'all. So there we go. 4,200 plus 30 plus 270 plus 30 plus 2,000 plus 30 plus 270. Altogether, we get 6,830. Antonique, I think you left off one of your office visits. So there should have been three of those. All right, y'all. So insurance and having surgery and everything for that year, they're just going to spend 6,830. So 6,830. All right, now you're going to check that answer. So now determine the person's healthcare expenses for the year without the policy. All right, so y'all, they gave us this total cost over here. So now we want to add that total cost up. So you're going to so total cost would be 100 plus 580 plus 100 plus 7,500 plus 100 plus the 900. So y'all add that column of numbers up for that total cost. So y'all get 9,280. All right, so let's punch that in. So 9,280. All right, y'all. So let's see this part C. Oh, y'all, that was it. We just had to do it for what it would cost with the insurance, what it cost without. So in this case, the insurance was definitely better than paying all the bills on their own out of pocket, okay? All righty. So, do y'all have questions? All right, y'all. So let me remind y'all when I'm doing this Thursday. If you test online on your own using Lockdown Browser and Respondus, if you test using those, then you don't have to be at class on Thursday night. What I'm doing Thursday night, I'm just going to open up Zoom and then let y'all test during the Zoom, but you don't have to use the lockdown and all that stuff. I'm just going to open it up, watch y'all, and y'all just test on your own, okay? So either option. So if you want to test Thursday with me, y'all come on Thursday at 6. We'll knock out that test one and be done with it, okay? Otherwise, if you're not here Thursday and you have done the test on your own by, I think I got it due Sunday by the 22nd, okay? So either way, y'all, um, some of y'all did the lockdown browser check quiz and was able to do that. So if you want to test on your own using that, um, I'm good with either way. So some of y'all planning on being here Thursday for the test? Okay, that'll work. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna